Welcome to HNS Anime and Manga. Like the video and subscribe channel and ring the bell.
Chapter 6 A Welcome Party. Pop, 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 pop. The crisp sound of party poppers filled the common room of the girls' dorms. To Leo's admission to the 18th platoon, and to Lady Celu awakening her holy sword, Regina made her toast dressed in a full maid's uniform, lifting a glass of non-alcoholic champagne. True to her profession, she wore the outfit quite comfortably. She looked like a completely different person from the girl who blasted voids with cannon fire. Thank you, Leonese said. Streamers from one of the party poppers tangled in his hair. It was a surprise welcome party. The table in front of Leonese was full of tasty food and sweets. Regina prepared this as soon as she returned to the city, Rizelia said, exposing the plan. On your instructions, Lady Celia. You said he'd definitely join our platoon. So that's why she went off on her own. Maybe Celia really did try to tempt me with candy. Plus, you were really something during your holy sword trial. Promising, aren't you? Sakuya smiled, sitting on the sofa opposite him. My holy sword is nothing all that special. It's just a support type. Leonese shook his head. Miss Celia's holy sword decided the match. Leo, Rizelia said bashfully, but there was a definite pride in her expression. And who could fault her for it? She'd honed her skill with the sword, putting in every possible effort, all for the day when she would summon a holy sword. And today was that day. Yeah, the planet certainly rewarded you for your diligence today, Miss Celia. I'm happy for you, Sakuya said. Rumors about your holy sword are already roaring through the academy like wildfire. Huh? Really? Of course. I asked the public relations department to spread the word, after all. Hey. You shouldn't have done that. Regina gave a teasing look and puffed up her chest boastfully. Rizelia grabbed her sleeve. Still, I don't think her awakening during the trial, of all times, was just coincidence, Leonese thought as he watched the two girls sparring. Rizelia always had the talent to manifest a holy sword, but the fact that she hadn't done so yet implied something inside her had impeded her awakening. Had dying and becoming a vampire queen flipped some sort of switch? No. In the end, this was all groundless speculation. Maybe the only thing that mattered was that her efforts were rewarded. And I should be content knowing my minion has obtained this mysterious power. The fish pie's ready. Elfine walked in, carrying a freshly baked pie right out of the oven. It was a salmon pie, with mushrooms, cheese, and cream sauce. It looked crispy, and its crust had an appetizing golden brown color. You made this, Miss Elfine? Leonese asked. Yes, pies are my specialty. Elfine answered the boy's question quite confidently. It looks great. Let's eat it while it's hot, Rizelia said, taking a seat in the chair to Leonese's right. Elfine sat down on the boy's left. Stuck between the two of them, the undead king felt flustered. His face reddened. A pair of sizable bosoms flanked him on either side. Does being stuck in a sandwich feel good, boy? Regina caught him blushing. She whispered the words playfully in his ear. What? No. Oh, would you like a sandwich? Rizelia asked, reaching for an egg sandwich sitting on the table. Oh, no, Lady Celia. This boy here is feasting on an entirely different kind of sandwich. Yes, I'd certainly like some of that pie, Leonese exclaimed loudly, almost shouting in his panic. Here you are. Elfine put a slice on his plate. The pie's texture made a satisfying crunching sound as he cut into it, and warm sauce poured over his plate. Does the assault garden get fresh vegetables and fish? Outside the residential areas, there are cultivation lakes and plants for producing different kinds of food. It's small, but our 18th platoon has our own vegetable garden there, Rizelia answered. They cultivate fish inside the city. Mankind's technological advancements in this area never ceased to amaze. Leonese bit into the pie. The savory taste of the sauce filled his mouth. It's good. Without thinking, Leonese had spoken with his natural voice. The crunchy texture of the confection was exquisite, and the sauce's saltiness was just right. Hey, Thank you. Feel free to help yourself to more. It's great, Regina exclaimed. Oh, I can't match your cooking, Regina. Elfine shook her head humbly. That left Leonie surprised. That maid could cook something better than this. Leonie's had a maid of his own in Shari, but she was completely incapable of cooking. She's an accomplished assassin, though, so she's adept at handling poisons. So, Miss Rizelia, think of an inscription for your holy sword yet? Sakuya asked, half busy helping herself to a piece of pie. I haven't decided yet. An inscription? Leonie's asked. Yes, in other words, a name. It's necessary for registering a holy sword at the academy, explained Rizelia. What about slasher cut blade? No, go for shining saint sword. Sakuya and Regina didn't hesitate to offer their own suggestions. Rizelia smiled wryly. What do you think would be good, Leo? Curious, she posed the question to Leonis. He applauded his minion for her devotion, but this was a difficult question for him. Giving the holy sword an odd name would reflect poorly on him as her master. Leonis pondered for a moment. I can't really come up with anything when her holy sword's power isn't clear yet. He came up with an innocuous response. You're right. For now, it's just a very sharp sword, but it might have some special powers. I should have it registered once I'm more accustomed to using it. Rizelia placed a hand over her chest. Speaking of registration, you still need to be registered, Leo, Elfine said. Me? We need to have your physical information scanned. My holy sword can do that and register it in the network. It'll be over in a jiffy. So could you stop by my room? Alright. That reminds me, where's he gonna stay? Sakuya asked. I don't think there are any free rooms in the girls' witch dorm. Oh, then how about you bunk with me, little guy? You'll have all the sweets you'll ever want. You can come to my room. I'm usually out the whole day. You're welcome in my room, too. Regina, Sakuya, and Elfine all chimed in with offers. Why you can't? Rizelia got to her feet and waved her hands in protest. Lady Celia, I'm Leo's guardian, so I'll take responsibility and take care of him. Rizelia cleared her throat and gave Leonis a sidelong glance. Leonis understood what she meant. Staying in the same room should help the two of them keep their respective secrets safe. I do need to make sure she has a supply of mana. I'd like to stay in Miss Celia's room, Leonis announced, grabbing hold of Rizelia's sleeve. He had to admit Regina's offer of sweets was tempting. Though. Are you sure that's a good idea, Lady Celia? Regina asked. I am. My room always felt a bit too big for me. No, I mean, I'm concerned he might do something pervy to you. Leo would never. Why you wouldn't, right? Of course not. Rizelia's slightly anxious reaction evoked an astonished response from Leonis. If anything, Rizelia struck him as a bit too naive, to an awkward degree. Regina, Leo is a 10-year-old boy. There's nothing to worry about, I suppose, but... Regina eyed Leonie suspiciously. I'm just gonna warn you now, kid. Lady Celia tosses and turns in her sleep, so be careful if you end up sharing a bed. The maid whispered the words in his ear. Regina, what are you telling him? You always hug my body like a big pillow, Lady Celia. That's your fault for being so squishy, soft, and easy to hug. The silver-haired girl stuttered, her face a deep red as she averted her gaze. It probably went without saying what part of her was so squishy and soft. With Leonie's lodgings decided, the topic among the welcoming party shifted to more idle chatter. They talked about a new store that had opened in the commercial district, about the pet Sakuya kept in her room. Honestly, Leonie's couldn't keep up with half of what they were saying. But for the first time in 1,000 years, he had a chance to relax. Leonie's welcome party came to a close before it had grown too late in the evening. Afterward, Leonie's was called into Elfine's room so she could register his biological information using her holy sword. It truly was a boisterous meal, though, Leonie's thought as he sat on Elfine's sofa. Having three girls together was a loud affair, to be sure, but such an energetic party would never have happened when Leonis was the undead king. The only things that served as his company back then were darkness and silence. But a meal like that isn't so bad every now and then. Leonis shrugged. He couldn't deny a part of him enjoyed spending his time that way. Leonis looked around Elfine's room. It was about as wide as Ryselia's, but the fixtures and furniture left a more sophisticated impression. Between that and the wood-colored wallpaper, the place had a very mature feel. His eyes came to rest on a framed picture sitting on top of a shelf. Ryselia and the other members of the 18th platoon were absent. Instead, it was a different group. Perhaps Elfine had belonged to a different platoon first. Doesn't seem like she would keep a picture if they'd fought and had a falling out, though. It was hard to imagine that happening, given Elfine's personality. Sorry to keep you waiting. I'm ready to start. Elfine returned from another room, carrying large tablet devices in both hands, and sat on a wheeled chair. She leaned forward to meet Leonie's eye to eye. You can sit back and relax, Elfine instructed. Oh, okay. What's wrong? There's no need to be nervous. Elfine smiled and tilted her head. The girl's large breasts were level with Leonie's line of sight. True, she wasn't a match for the maid girl, but they were still more than enough to capture one's attention. Leonie's turned away, a hint of red on his cheeks. All right, take off your clothes, she ordered. Huh? Leonie's asked, unconsciously. Just your top will do. It's hard to read biological information through fabric. Sorry. I guess this is embarrassing for boys, too. No, It's fine. Leonie's removed his shirt. Oh, could you take off your undershirt, too? Okay. He undid his buttons and took off his undershirt, revealing his unblemished white skin. Yeah, this will do. What lovely skin you have, Elfine said, reaching her hands around his back. Her cold fingertips gently caressed his shoulder blades. What is this? This sensation? Something about the feeling of an older girl's eyes on him filled his heart with intense bashfulness. Holy sword, Eye of the Witch, activate, whispered Elfine, and transparent orbs appeared around her. What looked like numbers made of light began circling the orbs rapidly. All right, I'll register your data, Leo,